welcome to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae.
And I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Thank you for joining us. The evidence was overwhelming from the start, but we couldn't stop watching as these defendants fought their cases tooth and nail. From dangerous narcissists to cold-blooded killers, they preyed upon the most vulnerable among us and made the decision to take their chances in a courtroom and go to trial.
For the next 2 hours, we are breaking down the top 10 most notorious defendants of 2023, rewatching some of the bombshell moments that cemented their cases in true crime history. Who's going to make the list? Watch along with us. Court TV Live starts now.
Coming in at number 10 on our list is a so-called vigilante who took the witness stand to defend her actions after she gunned down an elderly man having a diabetic episode.
Eyewitness after eyewitness recalled the moment the defendant angrily approached a subdued victim in his car before a single gunshot was fired from within the car window where the two had been struggling.
Here with her side of the story is our number 10 most notorious defendant, Hannah Payne.
We were kind of just standing there waiting for the police to arrive, and the other gentleman who had witnessed it walked over to us, and he introduced himself and said that he was a state officer, and he flashed his badge. Me and the truck driver were curious because we didn't know what had just happened. It seemed obvious that he ran the red light, so we were asking him if he was okay and if there was something going on, and he said he's okay, but he said he's definitely inebriated.
Are you sure that's the word he used?
I'm positive, because it prompted both me and the truck driver to reply, simultaneously saying, "Do you mean he's drunk?" And at that time, the truck driver and the state officer was still standing over in the street, and he started waving me over, like calling me towards him.
Okay. And when you got close to him, what happened?
I asked him, did he go straight? And he said yes. And he's telling me, he said, go.
So at that time, you were under the impression that he's the state officer sending you to get the tag, and 911 knows that you're on the way to get the tag.
Correct. But as I got closer, I heard him asking me, who the F are you? And I told him that I was nobody, but that I had the police on the phone. And that they wanted us to go back to the original accident site. And he kept yelling at me, telling me, I have something for you. And he used, I have something for you. And he's leaning, and he's reaching, and he's pulling. And at this point, I remember that I'm sorry.
Take your time.
I remember that he had let go of my wrist, and he grabbed me by the back of my neck. And it was as if he was trying to kind of keep a hold of me. The entire time I'm telling him, I'm thinking, I still have to be on the phone with the police. They have to know. I'm telling him to let me go. And that's when he hits the gas, and we go forward. I'm still in the car at this point, and while it only may have been a few steps or a few feet, when you are being held against your will and you have no idea what's ahead of you, and you're looking down, it felt like it lasted forever. And I just remember, it was like I saw my light flash before my eyes, and I thought I was going to go down Riverdale Road, hanging out the side of this car. I had marks on the back of my neck and kind of scratches along my arms, bruisings on my wrist, and scratches along my chest.
Okay. Anything in the facial area?
Yes. I had a kind of a black eye a bruised eye and a busted upper lip.
You stated that then you said you have a gun?
I did.
And what was your intent at that point?
My intent was that pulling it out, he would let me go, and I'd pull away from the vehicle, and that would be it.
Did you ever stop trying to pull away from the vehicle?
No. This hand was here, yes.
Okay. And the gun was here, he's pulling you forward.
Yes.
And he said he had you here on this?
He was closer.
All right. So, and he had your shoulder with this hand, or what was this hand doing?
That he let go.
He let go.
Once he got a hold of this wrist.
So he came.
And he grabbed the gun.
All right, you tried to grab the gun like this.
Correct.
Okay. And where was your finger?
The same way that I have it now.
And when he grabbed like this, that shows his fingers are right there over the trigger?
Correct. As he's turning it towards, like that way, I'm being pulled, and I can feel myself like pressing up against the car, like my face is up against the door. And as he's pulling it is when the gun went off. She asked me, she said, "Did you just shoot him?" And I told her, I said, "No." I said, he pulled me into the vehicle. He had a hold of me, but that I never had my finger on the trigger.
And joining us now to discuss Miss Hannah Payne is Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, and in Silver Spring, Maryland, trial attorney and family law attorney Michelle C. Thomas. So great to have you both on with us today. So much to talk about. Hannah Payne, let's talk about her testimony and what you thought of her version of the story, Michelle, that jurors did not believe.
Not at all. Good morning to you both. The audacity of Hannah Payne. Here she is defying the authorities herself. They're telling her not to chase this person, not to stand down. She's defying those authorities, but at the same time expecting this man to answer to her. She was absolutely not believable that she was somehow in fear for her life when she's the one who created the conflict and the chaos to begin with. So the jury absolutely got it right. The question really is, what made her believe that this man needed to answer to her and that she is the one who needed to take the law into her own hands? It was completely unacceptable. This man should still be alive today. And because of her actions and her failure to, quite frankly, simply mind her own business, he is not. And so the jury got this one right.
Al, there was a video that was played in evidence that really, I think, was the linchpin of this entire case. No matter what the witnesses says, no matter what Hannah Payne said, when they showed this cell phone video that an eyewitness just happened to take, held up a phone as he was driving by, it is graphic to see it happening. There's a moment that we stop it, the moment that that bullet goes out, but we're gonna play it and talk about it on the other side. Though we had to edit out that shooting, in watching it raw, Al, there's a moment where it just quickly, one shot, and then she pulls her hand back, almost in a, you shouldn't have messed with me kind of stance. Do you think that just contradicted everything that we heard from her on the stand?
Well, let's look at it from the standpoint that you have this self-appointed traffic safety vigilante, who comes onto the scene and is told that law enforcement officer who flashes a badge, basically deputizes her and sends her off on her way, which is not, it makes no sense whatsoever. It would never, there's a truck driver there. If the guy was gonna say anything, you'd say to the truck driver, can you, maybe go see if you can get the license plate on the vehicle. But in this instance, it's purely this woman had this thought that she was deputized, that she's able to go in, and she pulls a gun on what is conceivably leaving the scene of an accident, which in the state of New Jersey is a 0-point offense. It's a $200 fine. So that's what you had. And she felt it upon herself that, oh, the guy was inebriated, this, that, the other thing. There was no reason for her to do what she did. And you're 100% correct. That video destroyed everything that she said. It didn't show that there was a struggle. It basically showed that she went in And, the Dirty Harry look, and basically the only thing saved was that she didn't blow the smoke out of the weapon as she basically put it back and almost put it into a holster, for God's sakes. It's horrible.
It's horrible. And Al, they knew that video existed, the defense. And so that's my question too. I think it also did destroy all of her credibility, everything she said on the stand. So Michelle, let me ask you, why do you think she possibly testified? And it's the defendant's decision. If you were her attorney, would you have said, my advice is not to testify, although you get to decide?
I absolutely would have advised her not to testify. What could she have possibly said amidst all the eyewitnesses that were there testifying that she was the aggressor? And she certainly did not come across as a sympathetic witness. And so she didn't help herself by testifying. But I believe that she thought in her mind that she was on the side of right, that she absolutely had a right to pull this man over, even though she was not even involved in the accident to begin with. And the accident that she observed and interfered with didn't result in a loss of life. It was sort of like a fender bender. But she believed that there was something, and which is my prior question, is what made her believe that she had the right to intervene and to stop this person despite not having a badge or any authority of her own. So I think she testified because she really believed she was right. She was sadly mistaken.
Absolutely took that chance. Tried as well as she could is likely what her defense attorney believes in this case. She was sentenced to 43 years in prison before she'll get the opportunity for parole, but it is a life sentence. We still have more to come on our list of this year's most notorious defendants.
Babe, I can't promise you immunity. I can't give that to you.
They're going to treat me like a criminal. No, and I'm not a criminal. I don't kill people.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. Thanks for being with us. Number 9 on our list of the most notorious defendants of the year is a mother who was found guilty of murdering her 11-year-old stepson back in January of 2020.
Authorities accused her of concocting a variety of stories to mislead them in the hours and the days after her son was reported missing.
Take a listen to these recorded phone calls that were directly from the 9 most notorious defendants case, number 9 rather, Letecia Stauch.
I run back downstairs and realized that there's something downstairs I couldn't get. I was coughing and choking and couldn't get through the smoke car. Gannon was still asleep, but I just jumped on it and kept jumping on it, and Gannon was right in one of the covers. So Gannon did burn his arms. It wasn't bad, so they had bubbly spots on both sides of his arm. And I think that was from when he grabbed the cover and I was trying to grab him up, and he came down with me with the cover. And when he thought I was coming, he knocked over the candle.
Okay.
Because apparently he was playing the switch when he shouldn't have been playing it, which is fine.
Do you remember when it was that you were notified from the defendant about a rape story?
She had been beat up or whatever, and then Gannon also had been beat up, and he talked about his burns and all that stuff as well. And then Gannon was taken by this person. That it happened in Gannon's bedroom, and that she cleaned up the mess.
She gave you a statement about her allowing a man from the neighborhood that was a construction worker into the house to fix the carpet.
I think the story was she gave him the code. But yeah, somehow he got in the house.
Did she allege that that's the person that raped her in the first time that she tells the story?
Yes.
Okay.
When I walked downstairs at that original point in time, I thought that guy was the carpet guy. The next thing I know, I'm out. I hit my head on the back of Gannon's table. I remember Gannon running and jumping on the guy who I thought at the time was the carpet guy.
Is that the Mexican guy you told me about, the Mexican guy?
He was dark-skinned, and I say Mexican because I assume
Tisha, you just said she. You mean he was dark-skinned?
I never said she, I said he. I thought we were going to get robbed. Somebody was laying down in the road, and this dude gets in the truck with us. Gannon was crying in the back seat till he threw up. And he was so scared. He followed us all, with us all the way back to the house. The guy was with us the whole time. I asked him, what did he want? He could take everything he wants. He could rob us. He could do whatever he wanted. Have it all. There was a struggle. Then was asking, did I know his Uncle Matt? Because he was saying, whoever Uncle Matt was, you don't like Uncle Matt. And I was scared. What if he, Gannon, while I went up there and tried to go get help? My hands were tied that night. The police came. He was in the house.
Where was he at in the house?
I didn't know at the time. I thought they were going to find him because the guy was like, I'm not making this up. I need immunity. I tried to point to the cops and hey, check this area. Hey, check this area. I was even trying to show them any other extra areas that I saw. But I didn't know if Gannon was with him.
How'd you figure out he wasn't by himself?
I'm not. That was anything else. So I get immunity.
Who hurt Gannon? Who has Gannon? Who wants the money? Who hurt you?
It's Quincy Brown.
Quincy Brown. What was he driving when he was following you? A red car.
He fell. He got hurt. I swear to God, Quincy's real. And I was bleeding from his head. It was an accident. He said he would run back to his house. He had Gannon. Said he'd run back to his house, wrap it up tight, and he would call 911.
Well, Julia, Letecia Stauch to me is an evil person. I just think what she did was evil. But liar, liar, pants on fire. The more she talked, the more unreal her stories were.
Dug her hole. I was there for this trial. This case broke so many hearts. 11-year-old Gannon, just so many people poured out their hearts, traveled from different places to come there, to be there to support that family. Awful story, and she tried to say that she was insane, and so many people had signs outside of the courthouse that said, not insane, evil. That doesn't make you not guilty by reason of insanity.
Right, I have to just ask you quickly, what was it like seeing her in the courtroom?
You know, she didn't give much. There wasn't much of a reaction from her, which was telling in itself. All these horrible details coming out, and she really just seemed spacey most of the time.
No, telling in and of itself. This is a countdown not to miss, because after the break, we pick up with number 8. But first, someone who probably should have made the list, a Border Patrol agent who killed his mistress and their infant love child, Ronald Burgos Civiles. He did the crime and then did a police interview.
Corner, you ever asking all these crazy things? Yes. Wait, no. Sorry. Wait, a phone call? No?
We are moving closer to trial in the case against Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Morgan. I can never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the Doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial. Before we continue our countdown, we're bringing you several major news stories. In Missouri first, we have obtained new photos of Gypsy Rose Blanchard after she was released from prison yesterday.
Blanchard was found guilty of orchestrating her mother's death in 2015 after suffering one of the highest profile cases of being a victim of Munchausen's by proxy. Now that's referred to as a fictitious disorder.
And in Georgia, the trial for Young Thug, it resumes next week. Well, it was on a pause because one of the co-defendants was stabbed in jail.
The rapper is facing gang and racketeering charges for crimes that span over a decade. And we're going to bring you the highlights of that trial when it starts up again next week.
Now, let's get back to our countdown of the 10 top most notorious defendants of the year. Numbers 8 and 7 on our list are two cases that are so crucial, and they really shine a light on the youngest victims among us.
First up in Florida is a father who took punishment to the extreme, locking his adopted son in an 8x8 enclosure in the garage as a method of discipline.
In the end, a jury found him guilty of child abuse, not appropriate discipline. Take a listen to how sentencing played out for our number 8 in the most notorious defendant countdown, Tim Ferriter.
before the verdict was announced in the case against Timothy Ferriter, the stress and fear of what was about to come was apparent. His wife could not hold back tears.
We, the jury, find as follows. As to count 1, we find the defendant guilty of aggravated child abuse as charged in the information.
Jurors would go on to find Timothy Ferriter guilty of false imprisonment and neglect of a child.
Juror 1, were the verdicts as read your verdict? Juror 2, were the verdicts as read your verdicts?
Yes.
The 6-person jury found Ferriter guilty of charges related to the treatment of his adopted son. Tim and Tracy routinely kept their son confined to a windowless room in their garage with a bucket for a toilet. Jurors heard from the minor child, RF, now 16 years old, about what it was like to live in that room.
Did you like being in that room?
No.
Did you want to be in the room?
No.
How did it make you feel?
To me, being locked in a room, it's dehumanizing. It's almost as bad as genocide. It's saddening.
The judge asked us not to show RF or his sister, FF. Both, still juveniles, were witnesses for the prosecution. The defense lawyers conceded that Ferriter made some bad parenting choices in trying to address his son's severe behavioral issues, but they argued he acted out of concern for his safety. The jury requested a chance to review FF's testimony before returning with their guilty verdicts. She testified about seeing her brother being abused.
I was worried that one day that he might accidentally, that he would accidentally kill him.
And is that based on the physical force that you saw?
Yes.
And the level of anger and aggression you saw the defendant do towards your brother?
Yeah.
At this time, I'm going to remand the defendant to the custody of the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department.
Tim Ferriter turned down a plea offer from prosecutors in the weeks before his trial.
Have you made a decision whether to accept or reject the offer?
Yeah.
All right, and what is that decision, sir?
We reject.
Defense attorney Priya Murad said the plea deal was not so clear-cut.
The plea deal that we were provided was 2 years followed by 5 years probation, contingent on Tracy either taking a plea or Tim doing a proffer against Tracy. I had asked the prosecution what the plea for Tracy would be, and we never knew it.
Tim's wife, Tracy, faces similar charges. It's not clear if a plea offer is going to be made in her case, and a trial date is expected to be set after Tim is formally sentenced. Tracy's current trial date is set for March. We will bring you the latest when that happens. Next up on our list, 7th most notorious defendant of 2023. A mother was found guilty of murder in connection to the death of her special needs son.
When police responded to the scene, they found her 15-year-old son dead in an ice bath, severely malnourished, and also showing signs of physical abuse.
This mother actually took the stand in her own defense, emotionally testifying that she didn't remember what her line of thinking was at the time. Here in her own words, our number 7 most notorious defendant, Shanda Vander.
Once you discovered that Timothy had passed, and once the police get there, do you tell them the truth?
No. I was so freaked out. I'm sorry. I'm sleeped. I've got one. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You're welcome. Why didn't you tell them the truth? Why were you so freaked?
I don't remember what my line of thinking was at the time. I was so I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't.
Were you tired at that point?
I was exhausted. The night before he passed, I had less than an hour of sleep.
Were you frightened at that point?
Absolutely. I just lost my son.
You need a moment?
I'm okay.
Okay. Were you expecting? Was this outcome expected by you?
Absolutely not. No.
So would it be safe to say you were surprised?
I was shocked.
Were you in disbelief initially?
Yes, absolutely.
We've got there's an indication that it took you a while to call the police. In fact, you told You told Paul not to, according to Paul's testimony. Why did it take you so long? He said 18 minutes out. Why did it take you so long to call the police?
I have no idea, honestly. I'm trying to figure out how to describe it. It was surreal. Like you don't even know what's going on. Time slowed down and I didn't know what was going on.
When was the first time you found out it took 18 minutes to call the police?
Was it yesterday or the day before? Yeah, it was within the last few days.
Okay.
That's the first time.
Do you remember who was testifying when you found out? It doesn't matter.
I think we discussed it at a meeting on Monday. Was it Monday? I think so. And I heard 14 minutes initially, and then the first time I heard 18 minutes was when Paul said it yesterday.
Do you remember? How clear is your memory of your time and from the time you found Timothy and he had passed, and to the time you finished talking to the police that day?
It's spotty.
Okay. The first officer said that you were distraught. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
He said that you were crying. Do you agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember telling the police that you pulled Timothy from his bunk bed when you found him in distress?
I remember saying something like that, yes, sir.
Was that true?
No, sir.
Do you remember providing CPR for Timothy?
Yes, I do.
When did you stop that?
When the pro-med people walked down into the basement. I had asked them to take over, and they didn't take over right away, but they said I had to leave the area.
Okay. Let's do the hard stuff here. Jury's seen pictures of Timothy. We've all seen pictures of Timothy at the time of his death. How could you not know he was that ill? How could you not know?
Honestly, I was barely functioning. I missed a lot. I hate it because, I feel like a complete failure, but there was things that I just didn't see. There was a lot that I didn't see, unfortunately.
In those texts, you instruct Paul to make sure he's getting enough calories, correct?
Yes, sir. I did.
You had a restricted diet, correct?
Yes, sir.
But you instructed Paul to make sure he's getting calories.
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you rely on that?
Absolutely.
Paul says he called the police ultimately. Who called the police?
I called 911. It was on my phone. I'm sure you can pull the call and find out where it's from.
Did you intend to hurt Timothy?
No, never.
Did you know he was being hurt?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
The tactics that you use to first of all, the tactics that you use to discipline Timothy, did they seem extreme or outrageous to you at the time?
No.
Still with us to discuss, our experts, our attorneys Al Wunsch III and Michelle Thomas. All right, Al, let me start with you. Let's start with Shanda Vander, shall we? Her sentencing is scheduled for January 29th, rather. As far as I'm concerned, throw the book at her because of her actions. Who as a mother can possibly stand to torture their own special needs child to death? And keep this in mind, the father had kicked him out of his home, and the mother said, I don't want him to go into the foster care system. I'll take him. And then she ended up killing him. Your thoughts, Al?
Well, first of all, I just want to ask a question. There's no acceptance speeches, I notice, by any of these people that have gotten the awards from 10, 9, 8, or 7.
Great
so I'm
point,
wondering,
Al.
does that come in the next hour or something? I'm be curious to see, accepting on behalf of, and maybe I'll accept on behalf of some of these people. But yeah, this is another parental prize here. Starved him, tortured him, but didn't grasp the harm that this would be, have for this child. What a disaster. I mean, and if I was her attorney, the first thing I would have done is not give her that Nurse Ratched look up on the stand with the hair back and everything else along. I mean, she looked even more ferocious than she must have for the child that she was supposed to be taking care of. It was just her, just listening to her, the lies and this, that, the other thing. It's really sad. We got to have a license to drive a car, but you don't need a license to be a parent. And that's very, very troubling in this world.
Well said.
What she was trying to get a license for was to be an attorney. And it's interesting, we have more than one attorney on this list, but stay tuned, we have more. But Michelle, let me ask you about what Al said about her not grasping the harm. We had two stories that we just shared, and that's Timothy Ferriter's case and Shanda Vander Ark. And there was this theme of their defense saying to them this was reasonable punishment and that they were not being malicious. They were trying to correct bad behavior. Does that ever work when it comes to abuse that to the public, to society, looks to be horrific and heinous?
No, it does not. And that was just a completely ridiculous defense to say that her feigning this ignorance and feigning that she didn't know and had no knowledge. The child was 15 years old and weighed 69 pounds. It did not take a genius to know that he was dying or on the path to death. Beyond the fact that you have somebody who is legally trained. There was testimony that she scored a 182 on the LSAT, which for those who don't know is an extremely high score. So this person is highly intelligent. To then to get on the stand and feign that you don't remember and you're confused and didn't know what was happening, it is complete garbage. And there is a special place under the jail cell for people like her.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit also, though, about Tim Ferriter, because I want to listen together, Al, before I get your comments. The reality is the victim, the son, in the case of Tim Ferriter, now convicted of this aggravated child abuse, well, the son still loves dad. Let's listen.
Some might wonder why I came to see you again. A lot of people do not like what you did to me. Well, it's because behind this monster of madness, guilt, anger, and wrongdoing, I see a soft spot. Most people think that I am sensitive when it comes to talking about you. That is true and false. I do want to talk about you. That's because I still love you, and I'll always love you until the end of my days.
Al, in my experience, children almost always love their parents regardless of the amount of abuse or neglect that they've suffered at the hands of their parent. What do you think about that?
It's like the Stockholm syndrome. I mean, it's that you become, this is a person that you are supposed to love. This is the person that brought you into this world. And even though you're a prisoner, and even though you're mistreated, and even though, he created the build your own solitary confinement at home kit and put this kid in it, you still have that love that child has for his parents. And that's even more heartbreaking and even more notorious with regards to how Ferriter, the father, would have allowed this to happen to his flesh and blood. And it's good. I'm glad that he got a chance to say that in front of everyone. And that is even more heinous, in my opinion, for the defendant than the prison sentence. To hear that there is still mercy in this child's heart and still love in this child's heart, despite the horrendous way he was treated. I think that's a harder sentence than anything jail time can be, done to you.
Yeah, Al, I can tell you I was sitting inside of that courtroom when that moment happened. I got chills listening to the son address his father and watching him. He had two people there standing with their hands around him, just trying to surround him with this care and love while he was having to say those words. But since you all are talking about the children and the impact on the children, let's go back to the Vander Ark trial where her son, the one who lived, survived, the 20-year-old Paul Ferguson, was on the stand talking about his mother.
You thought your mother was a good mom, didn't you? You told Detective Piesky that, didn't you?
Yes, as well as the fact that I haven't had it diagnosed, and I don't know how to explain it.
That's fine.
But I'd say it's something similar to Stockholm Syndrome.
Okay.
I have a desire to find a role model that, due to my own low self-esteem, I would do anything to make proud of me.
Michelle, what do you think it is about these types of cases that draw people in? What do they connect to? Because sometimes they're very difficult to listen to the details, but something about it seems to really get people wanting to share and react, especially a lot of our viewers on Court TV.
Yeah, I mean, it really pulls at your heartstrings. Whenever you have a case where there's child abuse involved, any kind of domestic violence or domestic abuse, I think the general public just has an automatic level of sympathy and empathy for what the people are going through. And even though in that particular case, her son was testifying against his mother, but he was also complicit in some way with the actions, I think you can still see that he also was likely a victim of her abuse. And so it's a complicated situation. And I think anyone watching it can feel sorry both for the deceased victim, but also for this person on some level who was probably subject to her mother's reign and control and abuse as well.
Complicated indeed.
Very complicated, very sad cases. All right, we want to know, who is the defendant that you loved to hate? Will they be on the list?
Our countdown for the most notorious defendants continues after this. Don't go anywhere.
Coming soon to Court TV.
These murders have shaken our community.
Why did you do it? The Doomsday Prophet, Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Karen Reed, she's accused of murder.
She says she's the victim of a police cover-up.
It's scary just knowing that he was so close.
The high-stakes trials you don't want to miss. Coming soon, only on Court TV.
Welcome back to our Notorious Defendants countdown. And coming in at number 6, a defendant known as the Black Widower. He was married 6 times, and 4 of those wives died.
Now, he was found guilty of killing wife number 4 and the hitman he hired to kill her back in 2017, and he received 2 death sentences. But the Nevada Supreme Court threw out those convictions, so we watched him go to trial again.
It played out here on Court TV. Some would say he sealed his fate when he gave this videotaped interview with police touring his house after the double murder. Let's watch more of that video, now featuring our number 6 most notorious defendant, Thomas Randolph.
This door was closed. I open it up. I get right here, and Sharon's laying in the floor, face down. Her head's just barely, barely in the bedroom, if that. And I stopped right about here, had the door, said, Sharon! Sharon! I was gonna go get a neighbor, and I took something like that. And about right here, when I was like this, I was trying to kind of get a view. I thought I just seen like a shadow or something over this way. And I remembered that there's the 9mm right up here, because earlier I'd taken all my guns, put them in a suitcase, was gonna take them to Utah and switch the guns around. I reached right up here, got the gun, and as I got the gun, there's also an extra clip. There's a few up there, but I got the gun and the clip, came around just like that, and about that time, he's right up on me. Just right up on me, and we actually touched right about here. And he's short. And when I don't know if he gave me an elbow, but as we came around like that, I was kind of coming out. I was actually going to try to be slow, and look out, but it just happened too quick. We came up, and he kind of banged into me about right here. And then he went over to about right here, and somewhere along here, I bit my mouth or something, trying to say something like, what the or something. And he looked kind of like, and I don't know if he was looking in here to see if there was somebody else or what. And there was he had on a sweatshirt, and I don't remember if I seen the handle in the sweatshirt, if I seen the handle down his pants, but he was doing something, going for something down in here. And as we got up in here, and he kind of rushed up on me a little bit, and that's when I just pushed him, and boom, 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 and he started going out toward the shed, I don't know how many times I shot him, but I just kept right on going.
That claim in front of a second jury did not work for Thomas Randolph. Still with us to discuss, Al Wunsch III and Michelle Thomas. Thanks so much for standing by. Al, we've seen two other defendants on our list who took the stand. Thomas Randolph didn't take the stand in this retrial, but how do you think he came across in that police interview? Is he more convincing than some of the defendants we've seen so far?
Yeah, no, he didn't do a really good job. I mean, when you start doing things where you start like acting out what happened with, you know, Sharon, you know, like yelling, and then the other, you know, the onomatopoeia with the bang, 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 and that kind of stuff, that never works out very well. He didn't show any emotion during that entire presentation. I mean, his wife has been shot dead. He sees her there dead, and he's reliving this moment, and it is cold and calculating, just like he rehearsed it numerous times before he spoke with the police. It was absolutely, positively, like, unbelievable, and it just destroyed his credibility completely.
Now, I've never been a defense attorney. I've held other lawyer roles, but even I am saying, stop talking to these defendants, Michelle. They tend to do it. They like to give statements to the police. It brings to mind also an Alec Murdaugh. We're going to see him later on because he spoke to the police and gave statements without much emotion at that point in time. Does it, in your opinion, Michelle, really hand a conviction to the state on a silver platter when these defendants continue to use their own words to defend themselves?
Well, it certainly does if your acting is as bad as Thomas Randolph's. I mean, first of all, this was not his first time around the rodeo. He'd had prior wives who ended up deceased. So it's really remarkable that he took it upon himself to create a reenactment of the scene of the crime and what allegedly occurred, knowing that he'd already, I mean, he'd been through these types of things before. And I just think that when you have someone, if you're not telling the truth, it's going to come across. And so everyone just has to stop talking. The defendants do not help themselves because there's oftentimes so many inconsistencies when they actually get to trial and once the evidence is presented, or there's forensic data that contradicts the storyline that the defendants have told. So they do not do themselves any favor, and they need to just stop talking.
Michelle, you are so right that he has been through this before because it was almost 20 years prior to this. He'd gone through a trial but was acquitted for almost the same thing. Hiring a hitman, his wife dying, it looked like it might have been a suicide. The hitman came forward and said he tried to hire me, but he got off. Do you think, Al, that juries are a bit more skeptical now for cases like this, that there's perhaps more that this jury was able to see, even though they weren't able to know about those other wives?
Well, see, I think half the problem is the fact that if you watch every crime show, the first suspect is the husband, okay? And then that's the one that you kind of hit upon immediately. And this video, obviously, it doesn't work. As Shakespeare said, methinks, in that case, she doth protest too much. When you have something along those lines, it is very easy for the jury to get caught up in the fact that this guy he doesn't look sad. He doesn't look upset. He doesn't look like he's doing anything that shows remorse for the loss of his wife or the fact that he killed someone. There's nothing there. And I think that you know, the doll's eyes look that he has during this entire proceeding, you know, that affects a jury. And I think a jury's gonna, you know, see that and then go from there.
Yeah, I think you're right, Al. Unfortunately, we're approaching the top of the hour, out of time. Of course, goodbye and thank you to Al Wunsch III and Michelle Thomas.
Coming up, we're going to continue our countdown of the most notorious defendants of 2023. Who do you think is going to make our top 5? Weigh in online. We'll see you on the other side of this break. And welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae.
And I'm Judge Ashley Wilcott. Thank you so much for joining us.
This year at Court TV, we saw justice for decades-old cold cases, heinous crimes committed against children, and acts of passion and greed. But Who are the people behind these unspeakable acts of violence?
This hour, we are continuing our countdown of the most notorious defendants of 2023, from complete denial and outlandish alibis to going on the run. Here are the top 5 defendants who turned their twisted truths into our top headlines of the year.
Killer who remained on the loose for nearly 30 years. You may remember this crazy moment in court of defendant Joseph Zieler elbowing his own attorney just hours before he was sentenced to death in the cold case murders of little Robin Cornell and her babysitter Lisa Story.
But this wasn't the only outburst by the defendant during his 3-day trial. Zieler was seen flashing his middle finger at the cameras. He also took the stand in his own defense and called the mother of one of the victims a pig. Take a listen.
Where were you on May 9th and 10th of 1990?
I was in Maryland.
And Mr. Zieler, you've heard experts testify in this case that they are convinced that at least one, if not all 3, of the sites of semen or of other bodily fluid that were placed on the bed sheet, the pillow, and or the exterior of the young lady's genitalia was your semen. Is that possible?
No, it's not.
Judge, at this time, I have no further questions.
Mr. Zieler, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Asked and answered, Judge.
Overruled.
Yes, I guess I was trying to send it to everybody.
The whole Batista family?
Yes.
And in that particular letter, did you profess your innocence by claiming that it was a relative of yours that did this murder?
Yes, I was trying to defend myself because no one would listen to me.
Sir, it calls for a yes or no. Did you, in the letter, profess your innocence or allege your innocence by saying that a relative of yours had done these murders?
Yes.
Did you suggest, in addition to that, did you tell the people who this letter's addressed to that you slept with Janice, and a friend of hers in 1989, and therefore that's why your DNA is in the Courtyards North condominium?
Yes, I thought so because she didn't wash her sheets.
Did you also direct this to Jan Cornell? If you knowingly allow them to convict the wrong man out of spite and vengeance, I will drag this, parentheses, and you, Robin and Lisa, through appeals all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington, D.C.
Absolutely. I wrote that.
And did you also write on the next line, I'm innocent, I will prove it, no matter how long it takes. Do you really want the rest of your life spent in court?
Yes, I wrote that.
You're threatening then Miss Cornell with what you're going to do should she not, what? What do you want her to do?
Well, she's calling me a rapist and a murderer, so what, I can't write that? I mean, she's calling me a rapist and a murderer, and I'm calling her a pig for not washing her sheets. You're all trying to convince this jury that I somehow left blonde hair and Lisa Story's mouth and clutch in Robin Cornell's fist, because that's the piece of paper right here that they're trying to hide from you.
Mr. Zieler.
I still see the body of 11-year-old Robin Cornell with the hair of her killer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the jury will step out.
The blonde
Mr.
hair of
Zieler,
her killer.
Please.
So many moments. Let's bring in our guest to discuss. Law enforcement and litigation expert Sonny Slaughter is with us, and trial and family law attorney Scott Friedman. It's so good to see you both. Sonny, this was one of those trials that had moment after moment. It's a cold case, so it was one of those DNA hits that came years later in the database that allowed this man to be brought to justice. What I found most interesting was that when he took the stand, his attorney told the judge, I may have to recuse myself because I can't follow my oath as an attorney, and I would violate my oath if I asked him certain questions and allow him to get into basically trying to lie. Have you ever seen that happen before? What was your reaction to this trial?
I have never seen that happen before. And this defendant was so off the rails in everything that he did. He was animated. He was such a liar. And he really tried to do what I despise the most, and that is to defame and malign the victims in this case. He really had vengeance in his heart and his words and his behavior. And I am so glad that he receive the outcome that he did, because he is a very dangerous individual.
I would agree, he's a very dangerous individual. Well said, Sonny. And let me ask you, Scott, I want to see if we can also show in this case, he was elbowing his attorney, and I think we have that, because I want to talk about the reality of, Scott, when a defendant can have their day in court. That's their right. They get to decide whether or not to take the stand. And yes, the attorney had to say, hey, listen, I can't ask these questions. But at the end of the day, why do you think sometimes defendants insist on speaking when it really isn't helping their case, Scott?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that what happens is that they really want to defend themselves and try to explain what happened or didn't happen. And so they think they can convince a jury. And this gentleman in particular, certainly very nuts. And his behavior, as you're showing that right now on the screen, shows that even more, and his outbursts on the witness stand that we saw earlier. So him taking the witness stand was clearly not favorable to his case, but sometimes they have nothing else in defense. I mean, that's their last resort, is to try to say to the jury and connect with the jury, say, hey, I didn't do this and here's why. I was in Maryland, like he said, or something like that. But clearly this gentleman was not believable, and clearly his lawyer knew that too.
And his lawyer didn't want any part of it in being involved in him taking the stand and lying, but he was able to get his story out, what he claimed happened. As you mentioned, he tried to say he was in a different place, or that it was his brother or something else to that nature. Sonny, talk about cold cases and what victims go through when they are waiting for justice. And it really seems like, I mean, that's why we use the term cold. It seems like that's it. It's the end of the opportunity for them to get justice. But we see time and time again that there are those opportunities, and sometimes it can happen in an unexpected way.
Right. One of the most profound things that law enforcement agencies and departments that have the funds and individuals who can have created is cold case units to really focus on the details, the investigative process, and individuals who may need to be re-interviewed, evidence readdressed, and technology. The advancement of technology allows them to do some of the things that they have not been able to do before, and this gives families hope. This gives them the opportunity to really think about how they can get justice, or a measure of justice, for their families. Victims are always seeking this. Sometimes cases take decades to come to fruition. Sometimes they take years, but when you can bring a family a measure of justice and give them hope and give them the realization that their lives matter, their family members' lives matter, then it really does make a difference, not only to the family, but to the community at whole. It says that law enforcement will not quit, and that they are determined to get justice and answers for families.
And I feel like the cold cases are kept on the front burner because of victims' families. We see it time and time again that they continue to look, they continue to push, they continue to advocate, and it makes a big difference. Absolutely. All right, stand by. We do need to squeeze in a break. But next up on our list, 2 defendants who evaded capture. Our number 4 and 3 spots are coming up next.
We are moving closer to trial in the case against Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Morgan, I can never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the Doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial.
Welcome back to Court TV Live and our Notorious Defendants countdown. At number 4, a woman caught in a love triangle takes matters into her own hands and guns down her rival. The victim's chilling screams were recorded on security camera during her final moments.
The defendant in Mo Wilson's murder even fled the country and got plastic surgery in order to evade authorities. Then we watched her try to evade authorities again when she ran from officers in her jail stripes during a medical appointment. Our number 4 most notorious defendant, Kaitlin Armstrong.
These cyclists are competing in a 150-mile race called Gravel Locos. The reason Anna Mariah Wilson was in Austin, May 11th, 2022.
After just 2 seasons, she rose to the top of both mountain and gravel racing in the nation.
She had kind of just started being at the top level, and at 25 years old, for sure, her career was just getting started.
A promising future cut short when Mo, as her friends called her, was murdered. The motive? Mo was caught in the middle of a love triangle, according to investigators. At the center of it all, pro cyclist Colin Strickland. Strickland had dated Wilson, who was in an on-again, off-again relationship with fellow cyclist Kaitlin Armstrong. According to the arrest affidavit, Armstrong was so angry over their relationship that she wanted Wilson dead. In a statement to an Austin American-Statesman reporter, Strickland said he only dated Wilson a week or so before he and Kaitlin reconciled their relationship. However, he continued to see Mo at cycling events. On the day of the murder, Strickland confirmed he and Wilson were together, swimming at a local pool and grabbing a bite to eat. Then, moments after dropping Wilson off at her friend's home, she was killed. Police say Armstrong's 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee was captured on surveillance video near the murder scene. Police questioned Armstrong, but didn't have enough to make an arrest. The very next day, Armstrong sold her Jeep for cash, and with the money flew from Austin to Houston to New York, where she was spotted on surveillance video wearing a mask, jean jacket, and carrying a yoga mat.
We're searching to find out where did she go when she landed in New York. From that point is the unknown right now.
For 43 days, Armstrong was considered a fugitive. Her father telling Court TV he believes that she's innocent.
We would like to be left to be able to focus on Kaitlin's safety and proving her innocence.
U.S. Marshals would eventually locate Armstrong staying at a hostel in Costa Rica with her sister's passport, looking very different. Armstrong was extradited back to Texas, and she pleaded not guilty to charges of first-degree murder. On October 11th, just weeks before her scheduled trial date, Armstrong tried to escape. Court documents show she may have been preparing to flee for months by exercising vigorously. She complained about an injury which led to a doctor's appointment outside of the jail. Armstrong had secured a medical request, allowing her to go without leg restraints. Then, while being escorted from a doctor's appointment, Armstrong broke free. Officers had to chase her for about a mile before she was recaptured. She faces an additional felony charge of escape causing bodily injury.
For the murder, Kaitlin Armstrong was sentenced to 90 years in prison. And in a recent bid for her new trial in court filings, her attorneys now claim that she was pregnant around the time of her arrest and that she should have received a more lenient sentence if the jury had known she was pregnant.
Yeah, it's an interesting argument. We'll see what happens with that. Our next notorious defendant will not face trial in the U.S. because he just recently admitted his guilt. The victim's mother, Beth Twitty, waited 18 long years to find out what happened to her daughter during a high school senior trip. During that time, the main suspect went on to kill another woman in South America.
But finally, a plea deal brought the suspect back to the U.S. And as a part of that deal, a full confession. Here now, our third most notorious defendant, Joran Vander.
Natalie Holloway vanished in 2005 while on a senior trip in Aruba. She was last seen leaving a bar with 18-year-old Joran Vander and 2 other men.
He knows exactly what happened. He knows what, where, when, who, why, and how. He knows the answers.
Natalie's mother, Beth, became her #1 advocate, always searching, and Vandersloot became the #1 suspect.
Still no charges against the sole remaining suspect.
Holloway's body has never been found, and no arrests were ever made.
Joran, how does it feel to be going home?
According to court documents, 5 years later, Vandersloot contacted Beth Holloway's attorney. He proposed that if he sent $250,000 with $25,000 up front to his bank account, he would reveal the location of Natalie's remains. Beth Holloway sent Vandersloot $100 to verify it was really his account. It was, but that transaction caught the attention of her bank, and this sparked an idea. ABC's 2020 sat down with Holloway's attorney, John Q. Kelly, in 2019.
I was like, if we can ever get him to talk about this again, he's committing federal crimes and we'll have jurisdiction. I get the $10,000 cash from Beth to take down to Aruba. She has the $15,000 for the wire transfer. They wire me up. I give him a call to come over, and it was, like Christmas. He was so excited to see that money.
Beth Holloway wired $15,000 from her Regent's bank account to Joran Vandersloot's bank account. She was here in Birmingham, Alabama. She was sending money to her daughter's suspected killer, who was nearly 2,000 miles away. She was clinging to hope that this act would somehow, some way, give her the answers she so desperately needed to bring her daughter's remains back home. Vandersloot's story was that Natalie had died after he threw her down on the ground and she hit her head on a rock, and that his father then buried her in the foundation of a house. However, days later, he admitted that was a lie, and investigators found there was no way Natalie's remains were at that location.
Ya consultamos.
Weeks later, 21-year-old Stephanie Flores was found beaten to death in Peru. Vandersloot confessed to the murder. He was arrested and sentenced to 28 years in prison. Then, in 2014, authorities announced he would be extradited to the U.S. at the end of that sentence. But a deal was struck to get Vandersloot in the United States sooner. And Beth Holloway says there will finally be justice for Natalie.
Still with us to discuss, Sunny Slaughter and Scott Friedman. Thank you both for being on and giving us your expertise. Scott, this is one of those cases that it's not just a notorious defendant. This is a notorious case. Did you ever think that we'd see this day when people have been looking for Natalie Holloway for so long? But also, is this justice in the way that it played out?
I did not think we'd see this day, to be honest with you. I felt that this case went cold for a long time, although we knew who the primary suspect was. And so I thought that that would just continue, and these poor family, the poor parents, would not know what really happened. So I'm glad to see that they did find that out. This is a bad guy. I mean, this is just a bad guy. As you can see, there's a history of murder and crime. And it's just unfortunate of how this came down. But I'm glad to see that justice has been served. Has it been served enough? I think the parents knowing what happened is certainly peace of mind, and this guy hopefully will be locked up forever.
And it's such a unique circumstance that it was a federal case about money in which he confessed. So, Sonny, let's listen together first to a piece of his confession.
She knees me, she ends up kneeing me in the crotch. When she knees me in the crotch, I get up on the beach and I kick her extremely hard in the face. She's laying down unconscious, possibly even dead, but definitely unconscious. And I see right next to her, there's a huge cinder block laying on the beach.
When you say cinder block, looking at the walls of this place, is it like those?
The exact same cinder blocks. I see a huge cinder block laying on the beach. I take this and I smash her head in with it completely.
You know, Sonny, the family, to hear these details, they've been wanting to know what happened, but then on the other hand, you hear these gruesome details and your heart breaks. Are you surprised that this came out via a federal money about case that he finally told what happened?
I am not. I would like to let everyone know this case is personal for me. I lived in Birmingham, Alabama. I was there when Natalie went missing. There were lots of signs about the trip, you know, prior to, and all of the students, and it was really a big deal. And when she went missing, it changed the dynamics of the entire state. It changed the dynamics of Birmingham. And I know the law enforcement officers that worked on this case, and they have been relentless. Beth Holloway was relentless. And whatever they could do to figure out how to get him and making it a federal case. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Alabama, the Northern District, was very focused on this. The law enforcement professionals from the FBI, everyone. This case has left a mark on the entire community, but the way they tied it into the financial crimes, making sure that it was federal, to get him back here and to get the details. Although we may not have the remains of Natalie, the family knowing Beth Holloway is one of the strongest women that I've ever known, and the family has been strong and the community has been strong. This is a case that was worthy of the justice that it received, although we still don't know where Natalie's remains are.
Scott, do you think there's any more to the story going forward? Sonny just mentioned an important part of this, with her body never being found. With basically what Joran said in that confession, it doesn't sound like that's necessarily going to be a possibility, but is there anything left? Is there more accountability that may come about, maybe for other people who would have been knowledgeable of what happened?
Yeah, well, first of all, Sonny, that's a very heartfelt mention that you made, living there, understanding the community. So thank you for that. Yeah, there could be more. There could be, accomplices. There could be, it sounds like his father might have somehow been involved. At least that's what he claimed initially when he said the body was buried under a foundation of a home. So there could be other evidence that gets uncovered. I don't know how much law enforcement will continue to pursue that. But these folks are in jail, say things they shouldn't say. They make themselves feel important by telling other inmates what they did or didn't do, normally what they did do, and sometimes that comes out in different ways, and we'll just have to see if that's the case here.
Yeah, and of course, as we discussed the top 10 most notorious defendants, part of the point is to keep the victims at the forefront for all of us to remember. After the break, some true crime headlines and our top 2 defendants of 2023. But first, someone who fell just outside of our list.
Do you remember her? Megan Emorowitz. She was found guilty of killing her dad by throwing drain cleaner on him. Today, she's out of prison serving out her probation.
I was so confused, I didn't even know what was happening, and then my brother's yelling at me saying I did it. I didn't do it. When I left, he was perfectly fine. I would never intentionally hurt my dad. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm against violence. That my dad's my best friend. I'd never hurt him.
We are moving closer to trial in the case against Doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Morgan. I could never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the Doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial. Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Ashley Wilcott, along with Julia Janae, bringing you our countdown of the 10 most notorious defendants. But before we return to that countdown, let's bring you several major news stories. First, in Missouri, we have obtained new photos of Gypsy Rose Blanchard after she was released from prison yesterday. Blanchard was found guilty of orchestrating her own mother's death in 2015 after suffering one of the highest profile cases of Munchausen by proxy. That is now referred to as fictitious disorder.
And we have some breaking news that's developing in the murders of a pregnant teenager and her boyfriend happening in San Antonio. Police have released this surveillance video, and they say they're searching for two persons of interest. The couple's Kia Optima slowly approaches another pickup truck and briefly interacts with the driver. You see it circled there. Someone gets out of the Kia, but it's unclear where they go. The Kia then leaves the scene. Savannah Soto, her unborn baby, and her boyfriend, Matthew Guerra, were found shot to death in a parked vehicle earlier this week. We'll pass along any updates as they come in this case.
Yeah, coming in now as we return to our countdown. At number 2, a candidate for, or perhaps the worst mother of the decade. She allegedly killed her 4th husband, then murdered her own 2 children and ran off with a doomsday prophet without a care in the world.
Did we mention she also helped orchestrate the murder of her new man's wife and then married him, all while looking camera ready? Introducing our second most notorious defendant, the one and only doomsday cult mom, Lori Vallow Daybell.
We did respond to an unattended death at the Daybell home in southern part of Fremont County, Salem Highway. And Tammy Daybell was deceased at that time.
Just over 2 weeks after the death of his wife, Chad Daybell remarries. His new wife, Lori Vallow. The two exchange vows in Hawaii. Family members report that they have not heard from J.J. Vallow in months. On November 26th, police conduct a welfare check at Lori's Rexburg townhome.
And that was when Rexburg was looking for the kids, and Lori told them that the kids were, or that the son, the 7-year-old, was in Arizona with family, which wasn't true.
November 27th, police determined JJ is not in Arizona.
Y'all tell us where the kids are. Lori, Chad, tell us where the kids are.
Authorities arrive at Lori's townhome in Rexburg, and the Daybells are gone. December 1st, Chad and Lori board an American Airlines flight to Hawaii without the children. December 11th, Tammy Daybell's body is exhumed from a Utah grave for further investigation.
We got a court order in December and had Tammy's body exhumed, and an autopsy was performed by the medical examiner in Utah.
The following day, Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, dies in Arizona under mysterious circumstances.
I have a older male here named Alex. He just passed out here on my bathroom.
Okay, is he awake right now?
I think he's passed out.
Okay, you think he's unconscious?
Yes.
December 20th, Rexburg police in Idaho announced the search for Tylee and JJ to the public. January 26th, police stopped Chad and Lori at the Kauai Beach Resort.
Can you tell me where your kids are? Where are your kids? No comment? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
Authorities seized the couple's car and searched their rental home. On February 3rd, EastIdahoNews.com visits Lori's abandoned Rexburg storage unit. They find children's toys, clothing, and photo albums full of baby pictures of Tylee and JJ.
But one would imagine that you would want those items with you. You know, these are baby photos from when your child's 3 or 4 days old.
On February 20th, Lori Vallow is arrested on a warrant. She is charged with 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children. Bond is set at $5 million. After just 6 days in a Hawaii jail, Lori Vallow waives her right to fight extradition to Idaho. Lori Vallow is then extradited and appears for the first time in an Idaho court.
Counsel for defense, in the court pleadings, it designates Miss Vallow, aka Miss Daybell. How would your client like to be referred to by the court?
Mrs. Daybell, please, Your Honor.
And then, on June 9th, 2020, Idaho police, along with the FBI, serve a search warrant on the property of Chad Daybell in Salem, Idaho. Officials announce human remains discovered in the backyard. Chad Daybell is taken into custody and charged with 2 felony counts of concealment, distribution, or alteration of evidence. The next day, family members announce that their worst fears had come true.
And the mother you love to hate. It makes no sense to me. Let's bring back in Sonny Slaughter, Scott Friedman. Let me start with you, please, Sonny. I don't get it, right? Like, she does look beautiful. She's in Hawaii. She looks like she doesn't have a care in the world. And then we learn that her own children had been murdered. She's sinister. She's evil. She sits at the desk with the defense desk with a weird smile on her face all during her trial. What do you make of Lori Vallow Daybell?
You know, Judge, I'm a mom, and this is one of the most dangerous women that I have ever seen, because she was calculating. She was very cold and disconnected from her own children in a manner in which, you know, they died, that she may have participated. I don't know. This glamour girl is definitely a murder. She has murderous intent, and she really committed the most heinous crime that I think a parent, a mother, a woman could commit, and that is participating in the death of her own children.
Sick story, sickest love story, because that's what they were portraying that this was. They wanted to be together, felt like this was ordained, heaven ordained. Scott, I want to ask you about what we still want to hear from Lori Vallow. We haven't heard as much as I think there could be to hear. We hear those moments of her denying it leading up to this. Never really had the chance to hear this long interrogation of Lori Vallow Daybell, or her trying to clear her name in one way or the other. Let's actually listen to a bit of her talking and talk about it on the other side.
I have a different perspective in life, because in 2002, when I was pregnant with Tylee, I died in the hospital while in labor with her. They tried to stop my labor. They put me on the table and they put something in my IV, and I felt my spirit falling to the floor. I was standing near my pregnant body, watching the doctors try to revive me, which took them a few minutes. In that time, my sister Stacy was standing to my left. I turned to hug her and was surprised that her spirit was as tangible as a physical body, because I knew I was in spirit and she was in spirit. She said she needed to show me some things, and we went to heaven. I later returned to my body. Because of this experience, I have access to heaven and the spirit world.
Scott, is there any nugget that she can provide? Anything left for her to say that she could admit, that you think the families, the victim families, most importantly, but even the public who've been watching this trial, that it could move the needle?
Well, first of all, that explanation that you just played, I don't understand what that explanation does to explain her killing her children, or being involved with her children being killed, number one. So that just... It's just crazy to me. She's a psychotic person in my mind, beyond belief. But I don't know what else we could know or say unless she's willing to come clean and be open about what actually happened. I think a lot of what I took from following this trial very closely, which I did, was just the prosecution proving her actions time and time again. Phone calls that she made from the jail to Chad on the day that they found the bodies behind his home, the moving and leaving to Hawaii so quickly. All those actions sort of speak to me about what really happened in this situation. And now, of course, she's going to be in Arizona, allegedly conspiring to kill her other husband, her second or third husband, and we'll see what happens with that.
Fourth husband.
Yeah, fourth husband. She's had quite a few husbands, Scott. But thank you for your insight, and Sonny Slaughter, you too. I know we have to say goodbye to you.
And coming up next, a special guest joins us as we hit #1 on our list of most notorious defendants. This one was a fan favorite. Stay tuned. It's right on the other side of this very short break.
Did you kill Maggie?
No. Did I kill my wife?
Yes, sir.
No, David.
Do you know who did?
No, I do not know who did.
Did you kill Paul?
No, I did not kill Paul.
Do you know who did?
No, sir, I do not know who did.
There he was. It took just 3 hours for a jury to find our most notorious defendant of 2023 guilty in the 2021 murders of his own wife and son.
It's a case that gained intense national attention as new revelations about the defendant's family dismantled a legacy of 3 generations of prosecutors, all hailing from the low country of South Carolina.
Coming in at #1 of the year's most notorious defendants, disgraced attorney Alec Murdaugh.
On June 7th, 2021, did you take this gun or any gun like it and shoot your son Paul in the chest in the feed room at your property off Moselle Road?
No, I did not. Mr. Griffin, I didn't shoot my wife or my son anytime. Ever. Me and my boys lay face down. And he's done the way he's done. His head was the way his head was. I could see his brain laying on the sidewalk. I didn't know what to do.
Why did you go back to the house to get a gun?
I just didn't know. I didn't know. I mean...
Just let me ask you, did you get on your shirt high velocity blood spatter from being within a distance of a shooting Maggie or Paul?
There's no way that I had high velocity blood spatter on me.
Just to be clear, were you anywhere in the vicinity when Paul and Maggie were shot?
I was nowhere near Paul and Maggie when they got shot.
Tell this jury about Maggie and your relationship with her.
You know, she was such a lady. She might not have worked, but I promise you, she worked. And she worked to make sure me and Paul and Buster had everything.
Will you tell the jury about Paul, please, and your relationship with him?
He had a side to him that was just so sweet. He cared about people. He was fiercely loyal.
Did you kill Maggie?
No, I did not kill Maggie. I did not kill Paul. I would never hurt Maggie, and I would never hurt Paul, ever, under any circumstances.
Joining us now as a special guest is someone who is very familiar not only to us here at Court TV, but anyone talking about this trial. He represented the family of Murdaugh's former housekeeper, and even now some of the jurors from Murdaugh's murder trial. Attorney Eric Bland is with us. Eric, it's good to see you. I want to ask you about this trial being our #1. Tell me, what made this trial so different? There are double shootings. There are tragic domestic cases. But there was something about this, Eric, that seemed to just capture the nation's attention. What do you think that was?
Well, it not only captured the nation's attention, it captured the world. And that is because it concerned power and privilege, the abuse of that power. Look, Alex is going to be on the Mount Rushmore of career criminals. He's a double murderer. He's a money launderer. He's a conspirator. He stole from clients. So it had all of these different things about a powerful law firm, a powerful family that controlled the solicitor's office for over 100 years in Hampton, South Carolina. It concerned 16 years of millions of dollars, over $10 million of theft by Alex from his clients. And I just think the whole setting of like a Pat Conroy novel in the low country of South Carolina mixed with this John Grisham type of wild criminality created such an interest throughout the world in this case. And look, it's a distinguished honor that Alex got #1 on your list. I mean, it is what it is. It's just something that I don't think we'll see ever again.
I don't either.
I hope we don't.
Right, I hope we don't too, but great points. And Eric, of course, thank you for joining us. But Pat Conroy, that's exactly what I said as I was watching it unfold. And here's my question for you. We know your representation of different parties means that you knew a lot of the facts that you expected to come out at trial. But as you were watching this trial, how did you react emotionally inside as the trial was unfolding and more evidence was coming out against Alec Murdaugh?
Well, I was always pro-prosecution from the start of the trial because I was privy to a lot of the evidence in working with the prosecution on the financial crimes cases. And I really thought that the financial crimes evidence was overwhelming. I also then learned about the kennel video and the Snapchat video, and then all the things that happened after 10:06 p.m. when he arrived home and saw Maggie and Paul, that, you know, he didn't hug them and scream to the skies, what happened to my family, you know, that he would be full of blood. You know, we would always hug our spouse or our child if they were in that condition, yet he's totally clean. He waits 42 minutes to call Buster and tell him that his mother and brother died, but in the interim called friends and friends of Paul and did some internet searches and some texting. So these are the acts of a man that is, you know, a psychopath. And then we saw him speak publicly at his sentencing, and he went on for almost an hour where you see this narcissistic personality. It did concern me when he got on the stand because he is very good at talking and he's very good at seeming somewhat sincere, but the more he talks, the more insincere he gets. I didn't expect that the jury would come back in 3 hours. That was a real shock, but they not only found him guilty, they found him incredibly guilty. So I think even if there's a retrial, I believe the evidence of the murders are overwhelming against him. We haven't seen any effort by Alex to try to find the real killers. Remember, he put a reward out for 90 days. Come on, who does it for 90 days? In 102 jailhouse phone calls, you never heard him once say, I'm innocent. What am I doing in jail? What are we doing to find out who killed Maggie and Paul? He talked about football games and deer hunting.
You're right about that. You're also, to me, I was in agreement with not knowing that this jury would come back so soon. I actually thought they would take a day. Not that the evidence wasn't overwhelming, but I did think it would take them more time. You mentioned the evidence and it being overwhelming, and I want to play for our viewers, take them back to the kennel video, which seemed to be just one of the things that lit the entire case on fire in a positive way for the prosecution.
Get back. Get back. Quit, Cash. Come on. Quit. That's okay. Come here. Sorry, back. Come here, Cash. Post it. Cash.
Hey, he's got a bird in his mouth.
Hey, Bubba.
It's a guinea.
There's a chicken.
Come here, Bubba.
Come here, Cash.
Come here, Bubba.
Cash. Quit.
Come here, Bubba. Those words that put him at the scene, and he conveniently left out to police. Eric, I wish we could talk to you for so much longer about this case. We could talk all day, but as we reach the top of the hour, I just want to ask you, how long do you think this will all play out? This saga that is still continuing, still brewing, you're representing jurors. When do you think we'll see the end?
Well, I'm hopeful that we'll see by the Chief Justice Toll, who's now presiding over the case, not granting a new trial, But don't forget, we still have Alex to be sentenced in federal court as a result of his plea of guilt. Plus, there's the roadside shooting charges still out there. So it's going to go on for some time. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
The gift that keeps on giving. Thank you, Eric Land. Of course, Happy New Year. That concludes our list.
Happy New Year to everyone. We'll see you on Tuesday with Court TV Live.